In this video, I'm going to give you 10 reasons why I'm excited for Ashes of Creation. In a lot of my other videos, I'm sort of trying to temper expectations a little bit, but in this one, it's time to go full-blown copium, so let's jump in. The first reason is actually going to be a little bit controversial because I also think it's one of the reasons that many people might steer clear of the Ashes of Creation. And that is the PvP system. But more specifically, I like the idea of criminals and bounty hunters. Now, one of the problems with a video like this is every system that I talk about could probably do with a big explanation if you don't know that much about the system. I will try and briefly explain each one. So the PvP system is going to work like this. There's effectively 3 stages of being. You have your non-combatants, your combatants, and your corrupted. If you are a non-combatant, it means you are not intentionally flagged for PvP. However, you can still be PvP'd. If somebody who is a combatant or corrupted attacks you and kills you as a non-combatant and you do not fight back, they will gain some corruption. Corruption is basically negative effects on your character. This means, and I know a lot of people don't like this in games, and I'm sort of one of those people by the way, that you can in theory be PvP'd at almost any time. Apart from like some safe spots like towns, you can pretty much be killed. And for me, that entire system will come down to the balancing. And for the balancing, we simply don't know how strong that corrupted system will be. We know what measures they're going to be able to tweak, but we don't know if it's going to put enough people off from just killing indiscriminately, and nor do we know if people will find workarounds. Now, I'm not going to talk about all the bad or the good about that system. What I will say is that I do like the idea of having these criminals, these corrupted, and then having people basically be bounty hunters who go around killing the bad guys. I think that kind of interplay in those kind of systems could be really, really fun. One thing that I am worried about with the PvP system, I don't think it's in anybody's best interest if we all go on Asmongold's stream and the first thing that happens is that he gets killed by a group. And then 3 minutes later he gets killed by another group. And then 3 minutes later he gets killed by another group. We don't really want people to be griefed, but we do want meaningful PvP when it's relevant. It's going to be a fine line to walk. I myself really like the idea of having a bounty hunter group that goes around effectively killing all the naughty people. It's probably not something that we do as a main group myself, but I like the idea of it nonetheless. By the way, if you are interested in a group to play either Ashes of Creation Alpha 2 or all the way to the release, I am basically going to be making an EU guild. No idea what the name is yet, but I'm trying to get people together. We're going to play the Alpha 2, we're going to play the release. If you're interested in that, sign up to my Discord and then just, click the ball that says guild. We're very likely going to be a PvX guild, not super hardcore, although obviously we do want to do the hardest content. You won't get removed for going on holiday or anything like that. As I said, just click the Discord, join the group. The next reason I'm excited about Ashes of Creation is one that goes almost without saying at this point if you follow the game, and that is the node system. This is one of the key integral systems of the game, and it's another one where I could probably explain it for an hour and still come up short. Effectively, it's this kind of idea. There's going to be around about 85 nodes on the open map. These nodes will start off as being sort of like little tents or villages or huts or anything like that. And in theory, each one can be raised up all the way to a metropolis, a giant city. Through the works and efforts of the players, you can sort of level each one up. And as you do, there's going to be different stories that unlock, different content and different quests. However, there is a little bit of a cap. Only 5 nodes, I think, could actually be a full-on metropolis at any given time. And probably, lower numbers for the rest of the others, but I don't actually know those off the top of my head. Now, that's an exciting system in itself. I like the idea of different quests, different stories. I really liked that idea from EverQuest Next. I know that I've mentioned that a few times on this channel. But what I actually really like about this system is more the fact that it will create a unique story to your server. The people who play on your server will experience a different game, effectively, a different experience than somebody playing on a different server. If we on our server all decide that we're going to have a city at node 20, but on a different server they pick 21, they're going to get different quests, a little bit of different story. It's going to be very, very interesting. Your experience will be different from people playing on different servers. The history of your server will be unique. The players shape the world, and that world is shaped around them. I think if the node system is done correctly, then it could actually revolutionize the genre, and I'm aware of how strong of a statement that actually is. We'll see it when we get it though, obviously. The next one is sort of a relatively basic basic reason to be excited, but you know, it actually interests me nonetheless. And that is the fact that we are going to be using Unreal Engine, and I think specifically version 5 plus. Now, there are some pros and cons to using Unreal Engine. I will say I'm excited about this simply because I come from a game called New World, which I do believe has a little bit of a scuffed engine. Now, an engine doesn't necessarily make a good game. I will say that we have experienced games like Throne of Liberty, which I think is actually Unreal Engine 4, but there's mass PvP going on in those. Some of the battles are like 1,000 versus 1,000, and the visuals of the world is very, very nice. So I definitely believe that Unreal Engine can be competently used for an MMO, but obviously it's really the people who design the game, create the game, who are doing the heavy lifting when it comes to an MMO. The engine is sort of just helping them get there a little bit easier. And why I think this is important is Unreal Engine has like, you know, hundreds of people just working on the engine. If you make your own engine, by definition, some of your own developers have to be put on creating the engine rather than creating content and systems. So I think using a pre-existing engine and one as competent and as good as Unreal just makes a lot of sense. The next reason that I'm excited to play Ashes of Creation is the fact that it is a little bit old school. Now, if I'm honest, I've never actually really played an old school MMO. I really got into the genre with World of Warcraft, and World of Warcraft basically looked at a lot of the old systems and simplified them and made them a lot more user-friendly and gamer-friendly. But Ashes of Creation is a game that's going to require a lot of time dedicated just to even like level up. There's going to be a lot of social interaction. There's even going to be like an XP debt when you die. The worry here is that a lot of these old school systems were phased out because they weren't very good, but Ashes of Creation is sort of trying to bring back that old school vibe, and I'm looking forward to giving it a bash. And it sort of leads me on to the next one, which is a meaningful open world. So we spoke about the node system. That's going to change the open world in itself, but the open world is actually going to be the majority of the content. I think I was reading the other day on the wiki, it's estimated that around about 85% of the content will be the open world. There's going to be a few instance dungeons and a few instance PvP modes, but beyond that, most of this game is going to take place in the open world. And I'm a little bit torn on that one. Some of my favorite modes in a lot of the MMOs that I've played have actually been like instance battlegrounds, which to be fair, I think they're planning on PvP arenas being instance, which, you know, should be good enough for me. But also in the past, I've enjoyed doing dungeons every now and then. I don't really like to spam dungeons. I think it gets a little bit repetitive, but I think doing dungeons for specific gear can actually be really enjoyable. And it sort of sounds like most of the dungeons are going to be open world. And I think there's one more risk with that actually, in that you'll see what happens in New World when there's open world elite content. Basically, people do them in massive groups, and it effectively renders the content obsolete. However, I believe that Ashes of Creation is actually going to scale up to the amount of people who are about. Whether or not that will work perfectly or, you know, be subject to people just trolling it, I don't know. But I like the idea that there's an open world that is relevant and meaningful, and I'm looking forward to it. The next one is a controversial subject in MMOs, and that is that Ashes of Creation is not going to have any pay to win. Now, I'm very much aware that a game that isn't out claiming that it's not going to have any pay to win is something that many MMOs have done before. But considering how much that Stephen and the team at Intrepid stress this, I sort of believe it in this case. The game is going to have a sub fee, and in theory it's going to have a cosmetic store, but beyond that, it's not that there's going to be any way to buy power. The store, by the way, is not necessarily truly 100% cosmetic. It's worth noting that there is something called monster coins that I think they're planning on selling. However, I don't really fully understand that system, so I'm not going to talk about it right now. Either way, I'm really looking forward to an MMO without pay to win. You know, I'm not like Asmongold. I'm not a rich millionaire. I can't just spend whatever I want. Not that Asmongold likes pay to win or anything, but you know what I mean. And the next reason sort of leads on from the no pay to win and the subscription fee, and that is the fact that they are actively saying, and it's worth noting that they're saying this, it doesn't mean they've achieved it because the game isn't out yet, but they are saying that they're going to have GMs that are going to stop people RMTing and people botting. So RMT is real money transaction. It means if you buy gold or whatever the in-game currency is, you're going to get your account banned, which a lot of MMOs sort of have against their TOS, but then they don't necessarily enforce it. Intrepid are saying they will enforce it. They're also going to be doing quite a lot of different things to stop bots. I'm a little bit apprehensive to say that they will stop bots. Botting exists in almost every MMO. Somebody will try it, and they'll probably have a little bit of success. However, if they do actually continue to employ GMs, it's a little bit easier for real life people to identify bots, I think. So if they do that, then, you know, it could actually work. The issue is, 2 years after Ashes of Creation comes out and the hype is sort of down, the play numbers have dropped, will Intrepid really see the value of having so many GMs looking after their game? Because whilst Intrepid might be funded by Steven and some investors, money is not infinite. So we'll have to wait and see about that one. The next reason I'm excited is all about crafting and professions. So this is another one where the systems are actually quite detailed, and I'm not going to go into it. What I will say is that I really like the fact that you can't be a jack of all trades in Ashes of Creation. It's not like that you can have every profession maxed out. You can learn every profession at like a basic level, but the higher you get in each level, the less of them you can be. So what I mean by that is you might only be able to be an artisan in one profession, but maybe you could be a master in two. I'm just making up these numbers. I haven't actually checked. I haven't researched this. Don't judge me. I'm just going from memory from what I saw of a video ages ago that I don't really remember. So don't hate me. But the point being is that you can't do everything at the best level possible. And you're going to actually have to think about what you want to be. What path for your character do you want to try and achieve? Do you want to be a boat builder? Do you want to be a weaponsmith? And so on and so on. The niching down of your options basically means you'll be a more unique character than you would be if you could learn everything. So for example, in New World at the minute, you can literally just learn every profession and have every profession as max. And that means there's no real place for unique people to be specialized crafters. It doesn't really exist. And it's nice to see professions just in general. Throne of Liberty, for example, is literally doing away with professions. You know, there's no skills for gathering, there's no skills for actually crafting. It's all like honing and merging stuff together. It's not really that interesting in my opinion, but it functionally works. But I'd rather have actual professions. What Ashes of Creation is doing. And the next reason to be excited is the class system. Put simply, there's going to be 64 different combinations of classes. Now, it's not actually as good as that makes it sound, in my opinion. What it is that there's going to be 8 classes, and then those 8 classes, each one can pick a different specialization. Now, when you first pick your class, you will not be able to change that without making a new character. The primary classes can be the Bard, the Cleric, the Fighter, the Mage, the Ranger, the Rogue, the Summoner, and the Tank. And then it's those same names that you can then pick as your secondary. Your secondary, I think you'll get later on, maybe around about level 25. But the secondaries can actually be changed. It's not going to be very easy. It's not something you're going to be able to just like flick between the two, but you will actually be able to change this if you don't like the secondary that you pick. And for example, it might be that you pick Tank as your class, as your primary. If you then pick Cleric, you will then become known as a Paladin. However, if you pick Fighter, you will then be a Knight. And there's all kinds of cool combinations. For example, if you are a Summoner as your primary and then you pick secondary Cleric, you will become known as a Necromancer. Lots of different combinations there. Lots of them sound very, very exciting. I don't know how unique each secondary will feel, but I really like this kind of class system. For me, it's all about that class fantasy. And the next reason to be excited is the general systems. That sounds a little bit weird, but let me explain. I'm talking about systems like the caravans, sailing, houses, the sieges and the wars. All of those kind of systems, I've got to say, I'm really excited for. Each one could have been on this list as its unique point, but the combination of these systems, I think, are really going to enhance the game. With the node system, making each world sort of feel unique, with the open world being relevant, with you being unique when it comes to your professions, with you being somewhat unique when it comes to your classes. I think these systems are really going to be enhanced by all of those. The caravan system to sort of create PvP moments sounds interesting, as well as it being an economic thing. Sailing, we've not really seen too much of that, and I've not really played a game with sailing, but I've got to say, what we did see when it came to the caravans on the water, I'm really excited about that, especially considering you can apparently be like a pirate, which, let's face it, who doesn't like pirates? Then we have the housing system. You can just have a room in an inn in a town, or if you like, you can have your own house somewhere out in the wilds. The wars and the sieges are generally part of the node system, but again, mass PvP. That sounds really exciting as well. For me, when it comes to Ashes of Creation, there's a lot to be excited for. I would say that obviously the game isn't out. These aren't realized just yet. And actually, I think there are some reasons that people are going to be put off, which I talked about in another video, so I won't mention here. But I will say I am very, very excited to play Ashes of Creation Alpha 2 this year. And if you want to play with me, And I don't quite mean it how that sounds. If I did, I think the wife would have an issue about that. But if you do want to play with me, then make sure you sign up to the Discord in the link in the description. For now, big shout out to my Patreons. I do really appreciate you guys. There's a link in the description if you want to help me there. Or if you want to come and follow me over on Twitch, where I'll be streaming Ashes of Creation when it comes out. But currently, I mainly actually stream New World, which I know some of you won't like, but come and join me anyway. For now, have a most beautiful day. Like and subscribe. Goodbye.